Hello everyone, welcome back to the course. In our previous lesson, we got our enemy sprite or enemy object rotating, along with adding a new form of bouncing left and right across the screen. Today, what we're going to be doing is adding our camera controller. So what we can do here is just go into our code, and what we want to do is set it to where our player is always in the center of the frame. So we could do a new condition, add a new always, but instead, since we already have an always, what we're going to do is with our player object, we're going to right click here underneath our storyboard controls, and we're going to do scrolling's center window position in frame, and we're going to do relative to our object player and hit OK. And for now, we'll leave it how it is, but I'll show you something a little bit different that we can do just to um, make it look a little bit nicer. But when we hit OK and run the game, you can see it doesn't look like it changed it at all, which in fact, because our resolutions are the same as our frame, let's go back here to our frame editor and select our frame 1. And where it says size 1280 by 720, let's switch this to 1920 by 1080. And now that gives us a lot more room here on our screen. Now this, what you see, the dotted line going around, this is our viewport. So this is what we'll actually see on the screen. So now when we run the game, you can see there's a lot more going on, and we can see our colliders there. So let's go ahead and change a little bit. What we're going to do is first select our object, and where it says visible at start in the display options, you're going to uncheck that for our object bounce left. And we're going to do the same for our object bounce right. We're just going to uncheck visible. And now when we run the frame, we can go over and we can see that those objects are no longer visible. And this just adds some scrolling to our game. So let's go ahead and hit the X here. We're going to go back to our code editor. And where it says center display at 0, 0, just right click, hit edit. And we're going to leave it relative to the player. Oh, actually, let's go back into there. Leave it relative to the player. Drag this over a little bit. And this little box here, what we're going to do is grab it. And I'm just going to drag it up to the top of the frame. And we're going to set the X to 0. That way it's directly in the center. And hit OK. And sometimes this takes a little bit of tweaking, but we can try running it. And now it looks a lot better. You can see that it's not showing that bottom half of the screen. That's because it's falling relative to our player on the Y position and the X position that we set to 0 and whatever the Y position was. But we can fall, and it'll follow us that way too. Let's go ahead and exit out there. And that's pretty much it for this lesson. In the next one, we will be going over collecting coins. We will add some more tiles to our room, as well as some better scrolling functions that we can have to the game. That way, we can see why having that bounce with the objects was so important for our enemy object. And with that, I will see you in the next lesson.